Hello, and welcome to the Earth Podcast. Today, I'm excited to welcome Scott Crawford, the president and CEO of Virginia 811. With over 7 years at Virginia 811, Scott has been pivotal in protecting Virginia's underground utility infrastructure. He has held various roles, including vice president of operations and director of operations, demonstrating his leadership and commitment to safety and quality. Scott's diverse background includes over a decade as an adjunct instructor at Virginia Western Community College, where he taught U.S. and world history. He has also contributed significantly to professional development as a VP of Professional Development at Star Valley Credit Union and VP of Professional Development and Training at Member One Federal Credit Union. Adding to his multifaceted career, Scott appeared on WSLS TV 10 as the art detective, discussing works of art on the show Daytime Blue Ridge. I'm very excited to have Scott on as a guest today as we explore damage prevention and AI. Scott, welcome to the show. I'm so excited to finally be able to sit down and have this conversation with you.
Thanks, Jason.
Absolutely. As we kick this off, I think the best way to start is why don't you tell us a little bit about what you're doing at Virginia, your role at Virginia, and some of the challenges that you've been facing there.
Yeah, I'd be happy to. Of course, with so many 811 centers across the United States, helping to protect underground infrastructure, protect lives and property in Virginia, we, focus on that mission, incredibly heavily, and have been witnessing an increase in ticket volume, as has been the case across the country with all these fiber installations. This has led to some pressure on the industry in regard to timely locates and so forth. And so that's one challenge that we've been looking at. But another one has been the growth in technology in our industry. When we started as a company just over 20 years ago, while we did have some internet traffic for locate requests, overwhelmingly requests came in over the phone. Then during this period, the increase in the volume of ticket requests, locate requests coming in over the internet created a unique challenge in that while efficiencies were found with increased tickets coming in over the web and thus lowering the call volume, where we're now currently around 72% of our tickets come in over internet channels. What we found with QA/QC efforts was that actually those web tickets, the web ticket entry tickets, had a higher probability of having an error on them than tickets on the phone. And in our industry, as an 811 notification center, as is again, excuse me, as is the case with every 811 center, accuracy is everything. You have to have an accurate ticket in order to ensure that everything gets located properly and accurately as well. And so this was concerning, and that's what led first to a discussion about the use of AI in regard to helping us with that particular challenge, which then turned into an effort to find a way to use AI to help with that first challenge that I've spoken to in regard to increased volume across the industry.
Interesting. It's, I think there was a typical belief early on that there was a challenge in the translation of when a caller was calling and talking with an operator and then transcribing that conversation into a ticket and sending that out. I think we always felt a little more comfortable that if the person was actually doing the input using like a web browser, that the accuracy would be better. And generally speaking, I think we saw a lot of that. But it did introduce new challenges, right? And what kind of really impressed me was the fact that you found the crack in the plan, and then you tried to use tech to solve a tech challenge. And so I was incredibly excited when I first heard about your project. Can you maybe go into a little more depth of how you use it and some of the benefits that you've seen out of it?
Yeah, I would love to. And let me clarify one small part. The overall internet originated ticket process, which would include what we refer to as single address tickets, also ticket revision express, which is update tickets and all of that through the internet. And then we have web ticket entry. So when you look at those three areas, the concern was in 1/3 of those areas, which is web ticket entry tickets. So you are correct that the bulk of the internet tickets are highly accurate, almost 100% with the single address tickets. But with the web ticket entry tickets, that challenge that you were describing, where a caller calls in and tries to explain the excavation area to then, one of our team members taking the call, that sometimes there's a concern, there's a lost in translation, right? That they don't get the ticket accurate. What we found with web ticket entry tickets is a similar challenge can emerge as you have the field contact who's actually at the site doing the project, conveying to a back office person the information needed to put into the ticket. And so that person is then also similarly transcribing. And if they were calling in one of our agents, then they could be prodded through the process and led through the process questions to get a more accurate ticket. When they're alone at the computer, that's where we were finding that some of these errors that happen. And what we were finding prior to the implementation of AI was that a web ticket entry ticket was 100 times more likely to have an error on the ticket than a called in ticket. So that's pretty concerning. Now, again, Jason, when we're talking about that, we're still talking about approximately 97 to 98% of the web ticket entry tickets being accurate. Called in tickets are over 99% accurate. But in our industry, as you know, and are sensitive to, we can't have one error.
Right.
If we have 1 million tickets, just one error could result in someone dying. So we've got to find those. So that's what led then to the development of the AI model. That what our goal was to have the AI model be able to review every single 100% of the web ticket entry tickets that were coming through, and then set a threshold of acceptability, and anything that crosses that threshold and starts to become questionable, the AI model could direct that to a human resource, a human to edit and audit rather the ticket to ensure that the AI model was somewhat accurate and then take action as needed. So whereas we were only able to humanly audit approximately 30% of web ticket entry tickets, we now through the model are auditing 100% of those web ticket entry tickets. And that has now resulted in approximately 45 to 50% of human effort now going to those tickets, or tickets being audited at a 45 to 50% level. Point being, it did increase the number of tickets that we're auditing by humans because of the model finding the potential errors, but it has more than doubled the number of errors that we have found.
Wow.
So now we're at over 200 tickets per 10,000 tickets that are web ticket entry have an error, whereas before it was 100 out of every 10,000.
Wow.
So,
yeah.
yeah. So again, that, even though it's about a 15 percentage point increase in the amount of human auditing efforts, it's more than doubled what we're finding.
Do you find that now that you've discovered this additional group of potential challenges, right, these errors, do you see a logical next step of where you can see those and then automate fixing those, or automate reducing the impact on the human time?
Yeah, that would be ideal. We've flirted with some ideas about natural or language text generation, and all of that natural language generation and so forth. But what we have found at this point is that collaborative effort between AI and human is really getting sort of a sweet spot, because it's allowing the bulk of the work to be taken care of, and then with our commitment to providing strong service to allow a human to reach out to a human and talk them through and educate them in a more substantive manner, with the hope that can then prevent that error from occurring again. Now, having said that, there are definitely some platforms that then we could provide that would be focused on that particular error. We do find that certain audit codes tend to dominate the errors. So it would be a matter of maybe 3 or 4 instructional videos that could cover those areas, and use that as something that could in an automated manner be sent to these to individuals that are having challenges with that. And and of course, again, with the revolution of Chat GPT and other natural language generating models like Llama 2 and
Mhm.
others, there are ways you could use chat that could be working with a chat bot that is more of an AI model that has been trained specifically on content related to this process, and then spark a very realistic dialogue to support. And then if the model gets in trouble and doesn't know an answer, it could seamlessly move it over to a real human to jump in and help. So there's a, that's what's so exciting, Jason. We are living in a time, as you know, because you're, a leader in technology, just where the sky's the limit. There's so much that we can, put our minds to accomplish that was not able to be realized just 10 years ago,
Oh
even.
yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. We have these debates a lot, right? Because you look at tech so many times as a very powerful hammer, right? And then what can you do with it, right? And I think initially we all kind of got spoiled with like chat. When chat first came out, I remember I was like, "Hey, make this better," right? And it would make an email I wrote, it made it better. I was like, "This is so impressive." But when you really step back and go, what is this tech really doing, right? And way I try to explain it to people that are probably not as familiar in tech, like when I would explain it to my parents, maybe at times, I try to say is there's always been data. It's everywhere, but never have we been able to take all the data and say, let's figure out what comes out of the trends of that data, because we couldn't build something that could ingest all of that information and make reasonable assumptions in a timely fashion until just maybe a couple of years ago is when we first started seeing it. And what I think I keep trying to explain to people is large language models are great, especially when they're kind of generic like chat, right? Chat just goes in and it looks at everything. Where I think the incredible value, especially when we talk about like in our industry, is when we start building these models that are specifically tuned to look for what our gut tells us today, when we can start building those models to say, here's all the data of our industry. What can you tell me about it, right? Not here's also the data of Burger King or Best Buy, but this is the data of damage prevention. And so what I liked, I think, from when I first started learning about what you were doing was you were saying, let's take a very specific, precise approach to a very specific problem, which I love because I think now we say, here's how tech helps that problem. But my guess is the people of Virginia are more likely now to leverage AI moving forward because you showed them a way of doing it that would help and keep people safe. And I think that's kind of the narrative of the conversation is how do we bring AI into a very risk adverse industry like ours, and how do we make it beneficial and make it feel safe? And so I'm glad that you guys have started. I think it's a great opportunity for a conversation. I'm kind of interested in your thoughts on that.
Oh, well, I mean, you've hit so many important topics and themes that are tied to this. Feeling safe. I mean, you sort of ended there. That's where I've got to start because unfortunately, there's so much clickbait out there now on social media. Oh, AI is going to take over,
Mhm.
the world. It's going to destroy the world. It's going to take all our jobs and all of this. And it's from everybody I talk to in the industry, it's not there
Right.
yet. Okay, it can portray itself as a human pretty well, but it's not
Right.
sentient, not at this
Yeah.
point, and that's going to be a while before we worry about that. But as far as taking jobs, now that can be a concern. But what I'm finding is, and this is a message we really try to get across with what we did with AI. I'm finding in many cases where I'm seeing AI being implemented in other industries and so forth, there are other jobs that are
Sure.
created because of that. So the AI might take away one job, but it's creating, in some cases, higher paid jobs. In our case, what our model ended up allowing us to do, and I am very proud of this, it did not replace a single job, the AI auditing
Hmm.
model. What it did, it allowed us to create an entire new department, a QA/QC department that has a head of, that would be in our organization, someone reporting directly to the CEO. So the head of over QA/QC and organizational improvement, and then a manager position that is data
Hmm.
analytics focused and QA/QC, a supervisor who is over QA/QC, and then a team of about 7 individuals that are those human auditors that work side by side with AI, and the AI is sending to them the tickets that they need to then analyze, critique, determine if the AI model was accurate or inaccurate, give it
Okay.
feedback on that, their decision on that process. And then, if needed, immediately, same day, and that's important, same day, take action, pick up the phone, call, block a ticket, cancel a ticket, work with the person to correct the ticket.
Mm-hmm.
So, what is that? That's like almost 10 jobs, 2 of them executive level jobs, being created uh, because of an AI
Right.
model. Our company grew jobs because of this, and that right there, Jason, is when we tell this story and talk about it, it hopefully relieves some of that fear that AI being brought into this equation is going to erase jobs. In some cases, it very well may, but a lot of times the jobs are lower paying jobs and so forth, and they create opportunities for better positions within a company. But again, to your point, there is a lot of misconceptions about AI and what it can do. There's also, on the flip side, there's the group that thinks AI is the answer to every single problem we have. Um, you want to guarantee to fill a room at a conference, just put AI in the title, and because it's the hot thing right now,
Right.
and that's good. That's really
It
good.
is.
But people need to understand the limitations of it. They need to understand, when is it a solution, and when maybe are there other better solutions outside of AI too. So it comes a lot to education and conversations like this.
Yeah, I think it's really kind of an important note. One of the things that you said early on, which I have to stand up and applaud, and I think I saw you say similar stuff in some of your other presentations at industry events, is you talk about behavior changes, right? And so AI is great at capturing the data and the trends and saying, hey, looky here. But if you're not doing anything to reflectively change behavior, nothing, just because you know about something and do nothing, you can't expect behavior to change. And so I think what's interesting, what you've done as an organization, is not only have you adapted the role at the way the ticket's handled, but you've adapted your organization to be prepared for growth in the future, right? Because I think one of the things that you said is now you have a data analytics person that's sitting in part of that conversation. And I think maybe the most valuable effect of the work that we're doing today is the data that's coming out of this, both the new data, the trending data, the analytical data that we pull out of it. If you're an organization like yourself doesn't have a data person sitting there, I think one of the things that you're missing out on is the most valuable asset of your business. It's
Yeah.
that data that you're sitting on, because it gives you an understanding of how to be better and how to do more for your clients. And so I'm so thrilled that you're doing that at Virginia. I know we work with a lot of clients that are now saying, do we need that department? And I love it. Like you said, now you're creating value-driven jobs versus, I think everybody understands a call center is about addressing, that physical call that's coming in, that web-based call. But in order to generate new jobs in that, they can't be about servicing the call. It has to be about servicing the entire industry. So what you're doing is great. I wish more centers would step up. I think that's a significant challenge. One of the things that I'm curious about, when you see that, have you had enough time to see results now that you've identified more? Do you see those maybe offenders that were having problems initially? Now that you're doing more training, do you see those same offenders, or are you seeing that that's actually trending down?
Yeah, and that's a really good question, because you want to see that trending down. And there's some data that would suggest that is happening.
Oh,
There,
good.
the model is now identifying fewer errors. Now, and you asked this question just like a few weeks a little too early. I could have a much better answer, and I look forward to sharing it with you in the future at some point. But this could also be data drift.
Right.
There's other issues that could be going on, that it's that the trending we're seeing is not as optimistically interpreted as we are. That we are having a difference with training and so forth. So what I mean by that is the model may now be in need of fine tuning, and
Sure.
that's where we've been using it for a year, and that's a pretty long time to be using it. So we are currently working with Virginia Tech, and that's the organization we partnered with. their statistics department, PhD students, we're working on developing the model with us. And so we're working with that department again to now retrain the model, to let it now have that machine learning component. Now it has that in place. It's just a matter of making sure that we process everything through the model correctly to adequately train it, accurately train it, and do it in a way that it doesn't break the model. And so we're turning that over to tech so that they can test it in a safe environment and actually train it. So what it means is after a year now of literally giving feedback to the model, yes, you were correct. This had an error. Yes, this one had an error. Nope, this one didn't. This one didn't, and so forth. It has all of that data. It's just now a matter of running a program to give that feedback so that the model will adjust and accordingly its calculations and its probabilities to become more accurate and to avoid some of that data drift that we're concerned about. And after doing that, if we find that the number of errors are decreasing still, we will feel more confident in saying that's because of the training efforts, if all of that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, acknowledging drift is one of the things I think you probably heard me talk before. I've gone to a lot of events. I've spoken in a lot of places. One thing that always kind of puzzles me is when other speakers talk about this, don't talk about drift and talk about the dynamics of what AI really is. Because AI is not a moment in time. It's a moving target that gets, based on what you do, changes. And you would hope that if I'm trying to improve my behavior, I would see those changes. And I would hope it would also identify new areas that need to be addressed, right? So what's the next big thing that's causing the problem, right? I fixed the biggest thing. What's number two? Because it's now number one. And so drift is so critical on that.
Yeah, no, exactly. And like I said, there's certain audit codes that are dominating the list and everything.
Yeah.
I mean, now with taking it into all of this account and learning, it very well could find, just like you said, there's a different problem that now we need to address and train on and all of that. So it's, and I guess that's another thing, everybody, when they're getting into AI, they do need to, and I love how you put it, it's not a moment in time, it's a constant moving target. It is. With more data getting thrown into the mix, it's constantly growing and changing and learning.
I would tell
Which is
you built the segue perfectly, right? Because my next conversation was, here we are, look at the data. One of the challenges in this industry, I'm sure as in any industry, is we've had protective barriers for so many years at the data. But now what we're finding is other organizations, other entities, maybe even outside of damage prevention, are now identifying the data that we hold very valuable, that we've protected for years, are now finding ways to create that data using publicly available data records, right? Whether it's through permitting systems or published maps. So what's curious to me now, and I think one of the challenges a lot of the clients that I talk to are facing, is saying, I have all this great data. It's got great value. It shows me a lot of stuff, but I can't share that data because I'm supposed to be protecting it. So as the center, as you're sitting here with these, walls that you've built for years, they're saying this data is very valuable. There's people on the outside of those walls going, yes, I know it. I've recreated it. So how are you, I guess, what is Scott's view on data protection and where we're going in the future and where we should go, I guess, is where do you see us going?
Wow. Yeah. Well, you again, very important because and you mentioned earlier about feeling safe.
Mm-hmm.
Protecting the data is another part we've got to protect it to make everyone feel safe. Luckily, the bulk of the data we're using, first of all, with our AI model, for example, it's entirely internal. It's not cloud-based. So it has all the protection there that we have as a center, being on-prem and so forth. But also the data it's looking at is public data. So, someone can go into our system publicly and see a lot of information about the tickets and all of that. So we're very fortunate with how we're using it, and the data we're using is not considered that higher risk data like you might find in a hospital and so forth. Right. But definitely every discussion surrounding AI, must involve a discussion on ethics and morality. It simply must. We are fortunate that, you know, Virginia Tech takes a very, very strong position on that, on data integrity and ethics. The professor that has driven the project with the AI, she teaches a course on ethics and technology, which helps, and she's, you know, constantly falling back on the ethical component, which is needed. It's another sort of ironic twist in business that so often we talk about STEM education and how important that is. I argue the humanities is just as important, because you need to have a strong understanding of history, whether that be history of technology or history of human behavior and so forth. Ethics and so forth needs to be at the table. And that's why Virginia 811 recently sponsored an interdisciplinary panel of professors to talk about AI from an interdisciplinary perspective, bringing in philosophers, statisticians, English professor, and a humanities professor to have that conversation. So again, you have to start with ethics and what is it that we're going to be looking at? Why are we looking at it? How are we going to protect anything that could potentially be sensitive at any level? And then once bridging those barriers, and maybe they can't be, and at that point it might be the point in the project where it has to pull back, because you cannot, you know, break an ethical, you know, level of trust with the stakeholders you serve. But at that point, then just putting in the IT team into a play to identify all of the things that are needed in order to ensure that the data remains safe, whether that be, you know, through firewalls, but also through cybersecurity training. You know, NDAs help when you're working with other third-party providers and such. We wouldn't want to work with a company that would take our data, maybe 5 million records of ticket volume, and then sell it to some, you know, industry that would love to have that list of potential customers. You know, that would be incredibly unethical, and we would have lawyers coming to bear on anybody that did that to us, you know, that kind of. So I hope that sort of gets at some of that. I don't know if I fully answered how do we move forward in the future, because that's for people much brighter than me in regard to how to tackle that. But it is a major question that needs to be examined.
It's a billion, if not trillion-dollar question, right?
Yeah.
It's interesting. We've done a lot of work, and as we start to pound more precision into our AI play, we're starting to see the value of using one's own data and algorithms that we built that looks at general stuff. So in our case, for example, we built a risk algorithm that said, if you just look at a blank or just a generic ticket, here's a probability of risk based on work type and address and just common stuff that you would see. But what we found was it worked good, but it worked differently in Florida than it did in California versus New York. And so then we said, well, let's use the same formula, but fill it only with the data from them, their stuff in their area. And what we found was, as you would probably suspect, an increase in accuracy in that. And so that was really nice. So we saw that. So then what we're saying is, oh, if we use people's own data, they get better use. But then what we found out was that a lot of people didn't even know they had that data and how to leverage it and how to use it. So part of this exploration of AI has really, for me, been understanding where we have lacks of data, holes in our data, and what would happen if we could fill that hole. And that's what gets me excited, right? Because now we're doing stuff like expanded positive response, where we're gaining even more information out there. So as we bring in more data into the conversation, I think we're starting to create more value of the data inside of our industry. You hit an interesting note. As a business, we're saying, what can we offer that generates additional revenue, but then protects the value of our clients? Because you're right, there's millions of people that would give anything for a list of contacts that are associated with this. But ethically speaking, our business, we're not in that business. We don't sell that data. We'll never sell that data. But the question becomes is, what does that data tell us? And here's the big question I keep wondering. What happens when an outside organization recreates the data that Virginia 811 has sitting in its data, and then they start using that data to sell it to organizations where they don't have the same moral compass that you and I have, right? And so that becomes That's a huge issue. So I always look at my peers in the industry and say, how do we protect ourselves? And secondly, how do we get value out of it? Because if we're going to try to reduce damages and do all these things, it takes financial impact to really help move that goal further along. It would seem like this might be a good area to start harvesting some revenue to start making that challenge more approachable.
Right. And you know, and then you get into, you know, some of the issues with regulations, you know, coming to bear on, and we're, you know, me personally, I'm not a big like heavy regulations kind of guy. You know, I'm a little more the government that governs least governs best kind of mentality. But you know, the general consensus is it's another example where technology now is moving a little faster than we're able to legislate to keep up with it. And that creates kind of an almost wild west feel to it. And that's, you know, again, is you know, more legislation an answer, because then that can also, we don't want it to tip the balance to where now we're so protected, then there's no freedom to really develop some of the tools, the technology that we could be doing, because the data gets so locked, so tight. So that, again, it is definitely going to be the conversation that is driving a lot of public discourse in the coming years. I mean, I think ChatGPT is the example, the one that kind of broke the mold, and the others that have followed kind of woke everybody up to the power of this tool, even though they weren't realizing their lives were in many ways being governed by AI before ChatGPT. You know, it's part of our existence, but it woke people up to it, and now there's the concerns, and so that again is a big part of the public discourse. But you know, and again, I think that's why this is important curriculum in business colleges. You know, the business colleges, they need to be focusing on that more humanity side of it and the ethics and all of that too, to try to get people to come out in a Pollyanna way and do the right thing with all of it. You know, we have great power. And I don't want to have to quote Stan Lee, but, you know, with great power comes great responsibility. And you know, we as business leaders today have a huge amount of responsibility in regard to how we behave with the tools that are being developed.
It's interesting, especially recently, I think, with Apple making their introduction of Apple Intelligence. Great way to use AI, smart. And then you look at Microsoft, basically two of our, I think, biggest leaders in OS, right? The operating systems that our machines all run on, whether it's mobile or desktop. Both of them are talking about doing real AI integration at source code level, at the operating level, meaning that our operating systems are going to have access to more data than ever. That means that they're going to have to put better roles of protection in. We see Apple's come out incredibly with their move to say, look, we've got our own private cloud. If we're going to use chat, because they've got an agreement with OpenAI, they've got that going. When we were out in Seattle with Microsoft, when they talked about Copilot, one of the things they showed us behind the scenes was that Copilot, the AI vision tools of Microsoft, can already identify paint on the ground. It could see a picture. It could say that is a red line, that is a facility line, and it's got that built into a generic large language model already. So what I keep seeing is AI is going to take place at the very foundation of the way technology exists. So we're going to have the data conversation earlier, because we need to make sure we're protecting that correctly. But then it also makes me, and I guess the question that comes to me is, Scott, where are we going to be in 5 years? I mean, this has happened literally over the last 2 years. Everything we've talked about has taken place. I can't imagine what the next 5 look like. And so where are we going to be? Because I think you have the answer.
Boy, no pressure.
None.
So no one listening needs to take any stock advice here, okay? No, well, all right. So first, I think we've got enough now, sort of an understanding of where we are right now to kind of get an idea of where we can be going with what we have. Okay, so and that right there, we're not utilizing in its entirety. AR and VR, augmented reality, virtual reality, mixing in with the AI, some of the, you know, what you're talking about with the identifying paint, you know, already, all of this, we're not fully leveraging what we have.
Right.
So that's the easy step. Well, I say easy. It's getting buy-in from the industry. And when you see the US military investing millions upon billions, I think it's even gotten into billions now, billions of dollars on a project to have soldiers testing to go into combat wearing VR headsets and getting such amazing real-time data on the battlefield with maps and everything all displayed in the air in front of them, right? Um, Measuring even biometrics and so forth. Okay, in my mind, and I'm a little simplistic, but in my mind, if a soldier, imagining what a soldier has to go through in, let's say, Iraq in 100 degrees or Afghanistan or something, if we were still there, wearing all of that equipment and using that, I can't help but think that an excavator could wear similar equipment in Virginia and be able to have an amazing heads-up display where they're actually now seeing digital representations of the utility lines and approximately where they are, the work that they're doing and what it's going to look like, that they could toggle on and off to see it juxtaposed with those lines, seeing weather alerts, seeing biometric information that their heart rate's getting too hot, too fast, take a break, you need to be hydrated, your body temperature, communication at the dig site that would be enhanced. There's so much right there that could all be done right now. Now, that's not necessarily all coming through the ticket center, but it's still the technology being leveraged to create a safer dig site. And that's the conversation we need to be having. On the ticket side, just to digress for 1 second, the background's humanities. I've said that a few times, but there's a side project I had been working on, totally unrelated to any of this, but looking at some Japanese prints that I'm familiar with from a museum that I used to work in. And this was an amazing use of ChatGPT, I thought, in regard to what it could do. 19th century Japanese prints were many times their composition was influenced by Western art, Western images. And so I had it look at what I thought were a Western image of the American Civil War, created during the Civil War that influenced a later Japanese print later in the 19th century. I gave it to ChatGPT and had it compare the two, and I said, give me a probability that this one work influenced the other. It gave an analysis and came out with about an 80 to 85% probability that it influenced that print. I then shared it other prints that I knew were influenced by Western pieces and shared it. It analyzed those and said, now looking at these and how the structure is, I now increase it to 90 to 95% chance that, okay, so what does that have to do with damage prevention? All right, take images, mapping, take mapping that's coming in through positive response and comparing the mapping that we have in the tickets with what's being displayed through electronic white lining or through positive response, enhanced positive response with images from the dig site, and comparing the images and looking at if there's anything that could be gleaned from that we would miss under first glance. It is amazing what these tools can accomplish and how we just are so just in the first baby steps of what we could be doing with this. Our AI model, I'm very proud of it. I'm very proud of what we did. There's lessons we learned. There's things we could have done better. There's, everything, all that. But I'm very proud of what we did because it's allowed us to accomplish something that we couldn't have done with just humans.
Right.
But relative to everything going on in technology just today, it's a baby step.
Yeah.
It's like one of the lowest hanging fruits of what we could have done. Now, you talk about 5 years. We're one breakthrough away from other amazing developments. The whole issue with quantum computing, whether that will be in the next 20 years or 50 years, in all likelihood, it's going to happen. That's going to be a game changer.
Yeah.
When we can run infinite numbers of simulations and get the best outcome for those, damage prevention is going to go to a level that we can't even imagine.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I can't tell you where 5 years, but I can tell you this. We need to start looking at what we have and really leveraging it to help keep our excavating friends in the state and in the country alive and to protect the underground utility infrastructure.
Yeah, I think, you hit on so many key points there. I completely agree. I think, I joke because from a business perspective, a lot of times I got to figure out how do I protect my business, right? And I used to always make this association that I think people understood. I said, when somebody invents the magic shovel, there's no need for me anymore, right? If I could make a shovel that will never damage a line, then I
Yeah.
could say, you could dig wherever you want. Just go out there and always have this shovel.
Yeah.
What I realized, though, over the course of time, especially more and more every day, the magic shovel actually happens to be the phone, because the phone is what's going to do it. Because let's be realistic. In a perfect world, what we're supposed to do is make sure that people stay safe when they're doing construction, when they're doing any kind of excavation, right? So that's what we're trying to do. We have these entities, whether they're state call centers or we have utility owners that participate in this process. But the reality is, one day somebody could walk out to a field with their phone and say, "Can I dig here?" And if it's
Yeah.
clear, they should be able to put a shovel in the ground that moment, right? That's what we would like in order. And if not, it might say, "Move 6 feet to your left. And by the way, you could
Yeah.
do this." And by the way, when you do that digging, we're going to record everything to sub-meter level accuracy, because there's no reason that somebody else that comes out here should have to go through this process again without the most accurate records possible. So I guess in
Right.
my world, what I always imagine is one day we're just, in 5 years, we're just going to go out with the phone and say, hey, Chad, I want to dig here. Is this safe? And they go, yep, go ahead. And it removes all my liability. It suggests the tool I could use. It will tell me the place closest to me that has everything I need. I mean, it's all there. It's so close, right?
Yeah. Oh,
So,
yeah.
so the question is, how do we get out of the way to make sure that we keep everything safe? But how do we still participate and take all this knowledge that we have? Because I think I've given examples before on this podcast where I've said, even our AI has told us wrong. If there was, because in our AI model, what it basically said is electronic white lining causes more damages. We know
Yeah.
that's not the case, but I can show you how that data set that we had happened to show that, right? So the question becomes is, 5 years, it scares the living heck out of me. But if we're at the point where we're trying to figure out how it just makes human involvement better, I think we've missed the boat. I think what we try to do is say, how does it help us make the world safer? So,
Yes,
yeah.
exactly. And one thing you allude to there that everyone needs to keep in mind, AI, don't trust it. Always check, you know.
Always check. I think, I think you and I had this conversation out in Denver or Colorado when we were out at CGA. One of the things I think this industry is great is because we have these little silos at every state. We have these centers, we have different things, but it's also a huge challenge because we have different laws when you cross state lines, sometimes county lines even, right? The one thing that I would hope is our industry could come together and agree that we should build a large language model that represents our industry, and then people could take a slice out of it that might represent their state or their territory that they do. So I guess one of the things that I'm hoping for is that we can find thought leaders like this to say, let's leverage this data collectively as a group and figure out, does this sit at the CGA level? Do they create a large language model? Is it a business that creates it? But somewhere there's going to be a large language model that suits this industry better than anywhere else. And I'd love to get to that point. And I think you do it by having collective conversations like we're having today.
Totally agree. And I mean, and you mentioned the laws, and it's so true. And if we could have a database, I mean, and again, it would need to be updated, but of all the laws, and then a chat GPT type interface where, it could help, what are the differences? I'm going from West Virginia to Virginia. What are the key differences that I need to know, or something like that?
Mm-hmm.
And it could have a conversation with you about the laws. And I mean, what a database that would be to have it just simply trained on the laws,
Mm-hmm.
and that's it. And help you, as excavators, be able to cross those state boundaries, because it is true.
Absolutely.
What's the tolerance here versus here? What's the, what's the scope of a ticket here versus here? And we all run into those challenges where they just, are a little off. So
yeah, I think, now as you say that, one of the things we're challenging is putting AI at the beginning of the process, at the ticket creation process. So it's in real time, it's trying to provide feedback. You're right, because right now we have to do that at a state level. But what happens to these guys that are doing work in 25 different states? They have to submit 25 different ways. But if we could get it so they could submit one single thing and it would be applicable for 25 different states, I think it reduces the kind of overhead that of the expectation that the excavator knows all of this. And I
Yeah.
think it then helps reduce the possibility of damage, right? Because I think when you want to eliminate damages, you just don't do it at one part of the equation. You got to do it through the entire process from the very beginning, when somebody's thinking about digging, all the way to when the guy puts the paint on the ground to when they close the site because the construction's done. You have to be thinking that entire scope for this. And I think, I think it's positions like yours, when you're running a state, that you have to embrace this idea of how are we going to leverage the data inside of our state best to get the best results. I think what's going to happen is we'll see states, centers that move that kind of forward and see the value of that. And then we'll see states that might be a little more reluctant to do that. It'll be interesting to compare the narratives at the end of the day. Is the embracing this technology actually reducing damages, or are we going down a wrong path? Because,
Right.
we don't know until we know kind
Oh,
of thing.
exactly.
So, yeah.
Exactly. We're going a lot on faith,
Yeah.
it's, with that we're taking the right, and, and I alluded earlier to the one problem about the ticket volume and everything, and our next solution with AI, which I'm very excited about, but it was very enlightening to me because and this was a great lesson that I was looking at it, that we needed to look at municipalities and look at, based on municipalities, when a municipality was reaching a threshold with ticket volume where it was going to increase the probability of having a no-show. And at that point, have a system seamlessly send a notification to the excavator, hey, this area is experiencing high volume. Why don't you change your, schedule your ticket and create the ticket, all of that. And so we're working with a third-party vendor out of Charlottesville, Scappa Technology, and they had a data scientist run the model, and they've shown it's feasible to do this, but it's not by municipality. The model operates not so much by municipality, and I was having a hard time getting that through my head, understanding, well, what's it doing? I don't understand how it's doing it, but apparently it's a much better, more granular kind of approach to it in regards to the area experiencing high volume, and will accomplish what we're trying to do. But it's not a municipality. So I guess one of the lessons there, first of all, it's another way to use AI to do looking at 5 years worth of data and seeing when ticket volume in an area reaches a threshold where there's an increased probability of no-shows, and then take action on it.
Yeah.
And this can hopefully drive down no-shows and lead to more timely excavation, and not put pressure on excavators to take chances that they shouldn't be taking by not having all the information they need. And when you approach it, to recognize it might not go the direction you're thinking, and that's okay. It might be actually better than what you're thinking. So be open-minded and listen a little more. So that's what I had to learn from that. But it goes with what you were saying at the beginning, how you take one step with a project with AI, and then your mind starts thinking, where are other areas it could be applied? Hiring a data analytics person has been the greatest thing we could do as a company, because that has now created other even smaller projects, but just as important, looking at data analytics. So, again, it's worth executive teams and teams beyond the executive team at 811 centers to have meetings to talk. What could we do with the technology we have to help our stakeholders excavate more safely, and then, of course, protect that underground infrastructure, utility infrastructure?
You're hitting on such a key part. I think it's one of the things that I really appreciate about as your role. You have to look at running a one call center as if you're running any business. And by identifying the fact that there's a valuable asset here in our data and how we can leverage that and use that and then apply technology. It's hard because we're a software company, but I don't think people are quite savvy enough to understand that what it takes to engineer really good software is a different skill set than what data science is.
Yes.
So when our clients come to us and go, hey, we want to do AI now, we go, great. We got some of the best program developers, but we don't have a great, rapport of data scientists just laying all around. So now, of course, Earth's expanded by adding now a whole data science group, right? We've got all of these new things. There's new costs associated with all of these things, and as there's growth. So it's interesting as we adapt our business to handle the change of our clients' desires, to hear our clients changing themselves too, because it's good, because it makes me feel better that I'm spending a lot of money to put data science here. If you're not doing that on your side, I'd have to figure out it doesn't have value for you, right? So I'm so happy because not every center thinks that way. And it's okay, because it's so scary to be the new kid trying to start up and do some of these things that no one ever has done before. But I will tell you, at least in my view, and I've said this 100 times now, the impact AI is going to have on our business is far greater than GIS has. And without GIS, this industry doesn't really exist. So I'm trying to say that's how impactful AI is going to be. And I think what I'm so happy about is it looks like you're the first center to really start in the race. I hope you're not the last. I have a sneaking suspicion we're going to see a lot of AI features rolling out at one call centers here in the next year or so. I hope that you're part of that conversation for sure.
I want to be part of it, but I will say, I've got to say, one of the things I love about the 811 part of the industry are the amazing people that we get to work with. And I'm not sure if we are the first with this level of AI and so forth or anything like that, but I'm seeing just such amazing things coming out of some of the 811 centers across the nation.
Yes.
People need to know that the folks in the 811 industry across the country are just some of the best people you're going to meet, incredibly innovative, open to new ideas. And I think they're recognizing the importance of all of this. There's several that come to mind that I'm just in awe of in regard to what they're doing in their centers. And I feel blessed to be a part of a wider network and team of folks that are in this position, doing what we do every day.
Realistically, it sure is a lot of fun. I like meeting these people, and I like doing this stuff. This scratches an itch I have always had. I love tech, but the endless wonderment of AI is giving me such new motivation in my job of just saying, I didn't think about that. I didn't know this could come along and change our industry so impactful in this short a time, but I am so happy that it has.
Yes.
Well, as we kind of end this podcast, and first thanks for taking an hour to talk with me. I thought this would be a lot of fun because I love your vision. Yeah. But I will say, what are your last words that you have for AI and damage prevention? Let me have that, and then we'll say goodbye.
Oh, I'd say so much, but collaboration is a key to all of it. And it's not only thinking of AI as a collaborator, not a competitor within your industry, but working together throughout the industry, working as 811 centers together, working with the stakeholders, the excavators and our members, the utility operators, and figuring out where are the levels of comfort and how to bridge any lack of comfort that may exist. And then I do want to give a plug out if your organizations are not working with institutions of higher learning in your states, it's a great resource. It's a great resource to partner with in order to get some great youthful talent that are cutting edge. They're involved in cutting edge research to come in and help apply maybe some new thoughts to the old problems that we've had. And you never know, you could find your next great team member that you're going to hire and bring onto your team. But it also gives the students great real world business experience that they can have and carry with them into other industries. So in that way, your relationship is sending a ripple effect that goes now even beyond damage prevention and all that we do with that front. So that's, I think, probably my last thought.
What a great message. I love the idea. I love the fact that you leverage Virginia Tech. I think that was such a smart way of going about it. I think one of the things you said there, and I completely agree, having fresh eyes, looking at challenges. So a lot of us have done this for 20, 30 years, and we're just kind of already influenced a certain way. When you get those fresh new eyes that have no restrictions, no preconceived ideas, it's interesting. Some of them are crazy. Some of the ideas they come up with, you're just like, that's horrible. But for every one of those, there's also one of those going, I never looked at it from that angle. That's very interesting. And so, I applaud that effort. I think if anybody wants to find out more about AI and the use of damage prevention, wants to reach out to Scott, please go to the Virginia 811 website. Scott's information is located there. Of course, you can always reach out to me directly and I can put you in contact with them. Scott, I want to thank you so much. This has been a blast. I think we could do this once a month and the conversation would be different every time. That's how quickly this is moving.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Take care.
Yeah. You too. Thank you.